All right.
Okay.
You want to start off with Madman?
Sure.
Your thoughts, last thoughts on the show, if you want to rate it on the episode.
I rate this about 9.5 again on this, coming out of the season finale. From the season finale to Chrysalis to the Points of Departure, both very good episodes, very well written episodes. There is a boost level on writing on this one that you see the major changes, and like what Jason said, changes in the sets, the looks, and everything on there, the special effects, the quality on there, the characters. We're seeing more into the characters, more in depth on there, and what is to come. We have the coming darkness that's coming, which I've said this before. This is one of the best written science fiction series in television history for a reason, and especially what they've gone through, the issues that they've gone through with going into trapdoors of the script. They did JMS did a fantastic job on this, especially for a season premiere, coming out of from what they were and now what they're going to be. As I said, the truth points to itself.
Yeah.
All right.
Who's next?
Jason, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I think we're looking at a reset button, but it also feels like, not really a reset, but with the trap door and everything, we are moving on a different trajectory than we were. But I think also too, we're past the season 1 blues where they're getting their legs under them, they're figuring out who they are, they're figuring out what kind of show this is, and getting its Riker's beard. Yeah, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
They're hitting their stride. Next Generation, by the time they got to season 3, they had everything kind of mapped out and figured out. Deep Space Nine was the rare exception. They hit the ground running and never looked back. Babylon 5 feels like that first season was okay. We tried that. Now let's adjust. And some of it probably is on Michael O'Hare, but the other part of it is, how do we make all of these pieces and parts work and not get compared to Deep Space Nine? I have to wonder if that was in on it, if that was part of it too. But
setting us apart a little bit.
Yeah, just how do we make this stand on its own different? And I'm not sure that DS9 was stolen for Babylon 5. Plenty of people have sat there and said that it wasn't. But who knows? There's all sorts of anecdotal stories that could be told that we'll never know for sure. But because the timing doesn't really. Straczynski said it was. I don't know that did he actually explicitly say that DS9 was stolen from him, because I don't recall ever seeing.
He kind of hinted and then withdrew, and some of the actors on the series said the same. Those certain actors, they had said the same thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's different enough. I mean, you could, space station stories are, well, you have types, right? But anyway, I think we're off to a good start. I think Sheridan's going to fit in nicely. The addition of Boxleitner kind of raises the bar for everybody else in terms of performance. And I think it was one of those things where when you get an actor that really brings his A game and says, okay, this is the job, this is what we're going to do, your lead actor also kind of is the lead of the company, and not just your lead actor in the cast in the story, but the lead actor of the cast of actors. And so people are looking at him, and I think Boxleitner brings a certain amount of gravitas with Tron and Scarecrow and Mrs. King and such, that everybody else around him is now having to step up, and I think that's going to pay off throughout the season. That's my prediction. So.
Jeff.
Well, overall, I definitely a solid 9+. I think it picked up literally you felt kind of like 8 days had passed, but the world went from black and white into color. It was like things just they got stepped up a notch. Clearly, I don't know if it was just more funding, or maybe some tweaks. I presume this aired in November. So
Yeah,
what
if
it
it
took
was a,
this?
if it was the season premiere, it would have been probably around September or something, right?
It was
I think you said November.
November 2nd.
Yeah.
Oh,
When
There was
when
a
did
delay. There was a delay.
well, it was syndicated. It was syndicated. Okay, that.
But well, Madman was talking last week. The episode 21, real quick, was in August of the first season, and then they delayed the last episode until late October, or late October in the U.S. So then they put these kind of back to back.
now, as far as recording wise, when they actually did the production on them, I wonder if that was different.
Yeah, I'm sure it was significant.
I wonder how much time had passed between. Clearly the doctor got some lessons. Maybe he had an acting coach brought in or something like that to get him more comfortable in the role. Maybe, I don't know. I could see that them saying, okay, we need to make you a little more personable in this position, make you feel a little more comfortable, maybe, that type of thing. Clearly, at least in this episode. Now, it's hard to judge a season by one episode, especially when it's the first. But I did notice the graphics right off the bat. I'm like, oh, wow, these look a little better, a little sharper, a little more detailed.
Yeah.
Without being dramatically different.
And there are new shots. It's not, there are new angles, new
Right.
different,
It's not the
composition of the shots
same
and-
old regurgitated stuff.
Yeah.
New planetary scenes in the intro. You see some different planets and stuff like that. Kind of. I'm like, okay, all right. So this is cool. The sets seemed more populated, appropriately populated. There was it. You see more people where on the CNC was abundantly noticeable. You don't just have the 3-4 people that you normally would. You see other persons at some of the other stations, and of course when Sheridan walks in and Captain on the Bridge, or whatever, they're also, and there's like what, probably 8 or 9 people there now instead of like 2 or 3. So overall, yeah, definitely it felt more like a living, breathing world. Definitely felt like they had made it. They had taken and probably rewatched. I'm guessing rewatched the season 1 stuff and gotten probably some feedback on it and definitely took it to heart. So that's my opinion. I think it's, so far I'm looking forward to seeing how things roll out. I can't wait to see what Delenn looks like. Her beautiful bald head, right? So any rate, we'll give it a 9.5. That works.
I wouldn't compare to Argument and Deep Impact. I wouldn't do that. As far as I disagree with that with Michael Gonzalez. Movies like that were always coming out with earth crushing destruction and all that. The day the world died and all that. So it's something that's always been in science fiction.
Yeah, but his point is that there's two of those movies, like, both the
In that
disaster
time
movies
period, in
are
that
going
time
to be
period,
asteroids.
Yeah.
It seems a little.
yeah, but in that time period, you have to remember during the VHS era, you had everything from Aliens, Predator, any type of movie has always been copied. You can
Yeah.
have like a dozen of the same type of movies. It's always-
Asylum was notorious for this
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
The rip-off movies.
Yep.
Well, and I think too, I
Yeah.
mean, how many Christopher Columbus movies came out at the same time? We had 3?
Mhm.
And there were 3 at least 3 Long Island Lolita type of films, the whole
I think that's the point,
that
right?
thing.
They all come out at the same time. Like,
Yeah. But as far
one guy does it, everybody does it.
Yeah, but
Right.
with DS9 and B5, I can see where a lot of people are sitting there going, well, one ripped off the other. But Straczynski had been shopping this around for what, a couple of years before it got picked up for syndication.
Right.
Then DS9 was this thing that was originally was supposed to be a thing for Michelle Forbes to continue as Ro, and she didn't want to do a series at that point. She didn't want to make a commitment to a series. I don't know how much of the space station element they already had in place, but you can see in the last couple of seasons of Next Generation some of those seeds being planted with regard to Bajor. So
Mhm.
I wonder how far back Michael Pillar and Rick Berman and that group were already talking about what are we going to do next, and have it come up with something to do with Bajor or the Maquis, because those threads were started in Next Generation.
Yeah, but really, it took off with the Cardassians, and
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're right, because you've got the episode with O'Brien and the
Yeah.
Rutledge.
Yeah.
Cam.
Well, it's a little difficult to rank because I have to have a different scale for this season. So if I was ranking it versus in the first season, it would be a 10. But let's reset for this season.
We hit the reset button.
But still, so moving forward, I have to make that point. But even so, for in a general sense, I kind of agree with the 9.5 that you guys are talking about. This was a very effective episode. The characterizations were good. The writing was good. I mean, I don't really have any complaints. A few little nitpicks here or there, but excellent episode. I mean, considering what we know about what they had to accomplish, this one they did it. They hit on all cylinders. So I couldn't.
We had
be
to take
more
that
pleased.
trap door. Yeah.
Yeah, and they pulled it off. So
Yeah.
Loved it.
May have been better because of that.
Yes.
And it's not the last trapdoor.
So first, let me say that awesome history discussion in the chat. I think I'm going to have to add a history channel to the Discord or something for people to talk about that stuff. That's great stuff. This episode, I was a little bit disappointed. I found it seemed to be shorter than normal to me. There was, some of my favorite characters are the aliens, and we didn't see much of, Jakar and Londo and those guys. I understand why they did it. They needed to introduce Sheridan, and I think they did a very good job of doing that. They gave him a lot of time. And even though I'm a little disappointed not to see some of the other characters, I think they made the right decision. And putting off the, I mentioned this earlier, it's kind of a tendency in your first episode. If there was a bit of a cliffhanger the last season, you wrap it all up in the first episode. And this show didn't do that. And it's a different show. It's going to drag those out a little bit longer. We're going to find out a little bit better. And I think the story is better for it. So even though I'm a little bit, I see why they're doing it and I accept it. And I think the show is better for it. So overall, I think it is a good episode. I enjoyed it. And, it's a good, one of the comments I made in the wrap up is that some in the first season, you've got some of these weaker episodes at the beginning. And that, people could watch these and go, hey, this show's not for me, and then dip out. You're starting with a pretty good episode right off the bat. And so, you're more likely to keep audience that way. And that's a good thing for them to do. So I appreciate that. I think it's a good episode overall. Yeah, I liked it.